Good morning. I'm Skip Skinner. I'm County Administrator of Wise County, and we're here in beautiful Banner Elk Winery in Banner Elk, North Carolina, speaking with Dr. Richard Wolf. We're here today to talk about co-gasification and talk about clean co-technology, and maybe we'll have some time to finish up to talk about growing grapes and economic development as it pertains to winemaking and the benefits to our region that could occur as a result of that. So, good morning, Dick. Glad you had us in today to this beautiful facility. Again, we want to learn more about it at some point. But in order for our viewers to understand your background, could you please kind of give me an overview of your educational background and what you've been doing for the last 20 years of your life?
Well, I'll be glad to, Skip. First of all, I'm a son of a coal miner. My father was in the coal mining business and a coal miner up in West Virginia and in Virginia over his life. I grew up in a little town of Sophia, West Virginia, and I went to Virginia Tech on a coal mining scholarship, and having won the West Virginia and the National Science Fair. But I studied chemical engineering at Virginia Tech, and then I went on to work with the Atomic Energy Commission and for a number of years in Ohio, and then ended up getting my master's, my doctorate in nuclear engineering through the chemical engineering department at Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati. And then after a number of years with the Atomic Energy Commission, I joined the Department of Energy in Washington and worked in clean coal technology there. And then in 1979, I came back and joined Jim McLaughlin at United Coal Company and as a Vice President of Research and Development. And really since that period of time, almost 30 years, I've been working in new clean coal technology and research and development.
Very good. Well, again, it's wonderful to be here. There's been a lot of interest in the Virginia City hybrid energy plant, and with regard to the co aspects of that plant and the clean and specific clean co technology. Right. I think there's a lot of concern about the harm to our environment and so forth. And of course, being around coal my entire life as you have, I think coal is being demonized and not fully appreciated, and I guess from your perspective, could you give us an overview of the chosen technology for that Dominion has chosen to operate the Virginia City Hybrid Energy Center, and exactly what that means for us in the region?
Well, I really have been following that program for a long time because I'm interested in Southwest Virginia. Coal has had a tough time over the years because of the image, but also it's been dark and dangerous, and we've had our past failures. My father died of black lung disease, so I know firsthand some of the negatives of coal. But I've been motivated all my life, as well as many other people, on developing cleaner ways to use coal to reduce the environmental hazards, also to reduce the mining hazards. And so I have dedicated my life to looking at these coal technologies. And certainly we need electricity in Virginia. I mean, no doubt about it. As we grow in this country in the next 10 years, we're going to need as much as 4,000 megawatts of electricity in Virginia just to sustain Virginia. But locating these power plants in the coal fields makes tremendous sense because you don't have to ship them out by rail. That's very expensive now because it's used diesel fuels. It's much cheaper to transport the electricity by wire than it is shipping the coal. And also from an environmental standpoint, this coal does blow off these rail cars. So the Virginia City Hybrid Plant is, to my opinion, perfectly located right near the heart of the coal fields in Virginia. The technology that they have used and selected, I really have studied that for 20 years. And the circulating fluidized bed technology is by far the most advanced from an environmental standpoint of reducing sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxides. It's far more efficient than the developing IGCC, which is the integrated combined cycle gasification plants that we have. Only 2 of those. The second thing, the fluidized bed technology, will allow greater flexibility of fuel that we have in Virginia. We don't just have a certain quality of coal. We have a variety of coals, from high sulfur to low sulfur. So this technology will allow Virginia Power to use the lowest cost coals. It will also allow the use of some waste coals to help clean up these waste ponds. This, I'd like to make very clear, Skip, that this is not new technology. I mean, for example, West Virginia University has a similar plant operating and have been operating for over 10 years. A fluidized bed combustion plant operating there to make the electricity and the steam that West Virginia University needs at their site. And they're using coal, high sulfur and low sulfur coals. They're using waste coals. They're even using some biomass. And that plant exists today. You can go look at it. It meets all the standards. And it's just a smaller plant than the plant that they're proposing at Dominion. The other thing, with this new technology, mercury, even though it's small amounts in Virginia coals, can be easily captured. And I've been working on mercury capture for about 5 years now on technology, but activated carbon is certainly a very efficient way to absorb that. I've been developing a new technology from coal, and this is actually taking coal from Southwest Virginia and molding it and melting it and making a char, a high quality carbon source that really is equivalent to activated carbon. So we can even use our own coal, not activated carbon made from petroleum, but for capturing mercury. So these are some technologies that are developing, and I've looked very closely at what Virginia City plant looks like, and looks to me like Dominion has really done a fine job on selecting the right technology at the lowest cost and the most efficient from an environmental standpoint.
Very good, very good. I guess for the record, I think some individuals may be concerned about why you are speaking in favor of this. Are you now, or have you been on the consulting to doing any work for Dominion as it pertains to this plan?
No, I have no contract with Dominion whatsoever. I like very much to say that I support coal technology and clean coal technology. That's my motivating interest. I'm very much in favor of utilizing coal to make coal liquids to meet our transportation needs. In fact, when I had my own coal technology company in Bristol, we made a coal-powered fuel. And many people know, and they use that gasoline. So I feel like I've been on the frontier of these new technologies, and I'm a very much advocate of trying to do a better job of explaining to the public and those people who are not quite as informed maybe as I am, that not to be afraid of new technologies.
Certainly.
Because I think most of I think maybe Roosevelt said, the only fear we have is fear ourselves. Well, I think that many times these new technologies people say, well, has it been proven? Yes, it's been proven. It's not just in a laboratory. Like the fluidized bed has been used all over the world. And so just being able to explain that, and I have testified in favor of that for a couple times, and I've tried to talk about the technology and hopefully resolve some people's concern that the technology is very efficient. And in my opinion, it's the best technology to use at this time. Now, the integrated gasification combined cycle is developing. It's very expensive now to make electricity that way. It's not quite as efficient in an environmental standpoint, and it's very capital intensive. It doesn't have as much coal flexibility. So I think Dominion has looked at what we have in Southwest Virginia, and I think the selection of this technology is by far the best at this point in time.
Let's talk for a moment about just energy in general. yesterday, I think I purchased a tank of gas for my automobile for regular unleaded, and currently I'm paying about $3.50 a gallon. I think diesel fuel is either, if it's not over $4, it's quickly approaching $4 a gallon. Tell us about the importance of coal in general, developing alternate fuels, alternate to petroleum products, or oil-based, directly from oil-based products, crude oil. How do you see coal and clean coal technology fitting into the future?
Well, I've been a very much advocate when I was with the Department of Energy on converting coal into synfuels. We even started a program when I was at United Coal, the first program in Virginia. We formed a company with Hercules and Norfolk and Southern and United Coal to put in the first coal gasification plant in Virginia. That was in 1990, in the late 80s. The idea of converting coal into new form, just like this. I mean, this is actually, people don't realize that you can melt coal. But I have taken the volatiles, the liquids, out of that coal and made coal liquids as the product, as a byproduct of this. These technologies now, at the price of $45 to $50 a barrel, can be economical. And when I started the coal-powered gasoline at my plant in Bristol, CTC, we had 15 gasoline stations selling a blend of methanol blended with gasoline and methanol made from coal. That technology exists. Tennessee Eastman has certainly been a pioneer right there in Kingsport of developing coal gasification. They use a Texaco gasifier and they make methanol, and then they make that into methyl acetate for chemicals. These technologies are here, and at the price of gasoline we've got now, we can certainly do it. It takes a big plant, and certainly I think the Virginia City Hybrid Energy Center can be an incubator for new technologies in coal liquids, converting coal into chars that, like this, could be used in absorbing pollutants. This is why I'm such a supporter of a big location like $1.8 billion they're going to put into Southwest Virginia. That will become, I think, the model for the entire country on new clean coal technologies. And it's right here in Southwest Virginia. So all of our students and our scientists will start to study coal conversion and coal technologies. And I think this is what's going to be so exciting to me, is see that so much more people are concentrating in the science of coal so that we can make use of it.
Sure.
In fact, just to point out, this statue is a statue of my father, and it was given to me by the National Independent Coal Operators. And I had them to make a model of my father. This is made from cannel coal, which has a lot of oil in it. We have a lot of different coals in Virginia. This is anthracite coal, and we had anthracite coal. It's mined out now. So we have all these flexibilities that we can use coal for, and I want to try to help stimulate those kinds of new industries.
We've often hear about Southwest Virginia and Wise County in general, well, the coal fields in general, I guess, being considered to be the Saudi Arabia of coal in terms of the amount of coal resources. But yet, we also know that if you look at a curve of available resources, that we're probably on the downhill side of that curve. How do you answer or address those critics who say that coal is dying and it's a dwindling fuel source?
Well, let me just point out, we do in America, we do have really almost 3 times the amount of oil equivalent. Our coal resources we have more coal than Saudi Arabia has oil. And if we convert that coal into liquids, we can meet into power. We can meet our energy needs. It's going to take new plants to do that. But we have plenty of coal. Now, some of our coal in Virginia is getting depleted. That's natural. But there is new technologies coming that will allow us to mine even those coals that we can't get to today. In fact, we're mining coals that 25 years ago we didn't think we could mine. And we're mining those coals now. So I think the waste impoundments that we have is a tremendous resource, not just for the Virginia City plant, but for recovering and making coal liquids out of them. So I believe that our best years of coal can be ahead of us, but we've got to do them cleanly, and we've got to meet the environmental standards. But the technology is advancing, and I'll assure you the next 10 years there'll be more advanced technology on clean coal than in the past 30. And it's developing in all sorts of things. One thing I'm working on is bioengineering. That's like getting bugs to eat sugar out of grapes to make wine. Well, there's bugs now that eat our garbage, our sewage, and they make methane gas in landfills. Those bugs also, bugs are being developed and cloned that will eat coal and convert it into natural gas. So those technologies are down the road. People are working on them, but I think in the next 10 years you'll see tremendous opportunities. And it's not completely unfeasible to think that you couldn't put some bugs down in those unminable coal seams and let them just make natural gas and just have a field day down there. So these are technologies that's a little bit far out, but they're not beyond our realm of understanding.
Are they currently being considered and studied in the university setting?
Yes, sir. Virginia Tech is doing a lot of work in bioengineering, and there's a company up in Northern Virginia called Architect, which has developed some new technology and has patents on cloning certain bugs that will eat coals like we have in Virginia to make methane gas. So these technologies are on the frontier, and they're coming fast.
A lot of, I think there's a lot of concern, especially in Wise County, about additional coal being mined means additional surface mining and so forth. Do you have a feel for the coal development of the future, that there'll be more of it in some type of underground situation, especially I would imagine as you're talking about some of the bugs and the biochemical engineering opportunities eating the coal. But do you anticipate more coal being mined as a underground mining or surface mining?
Well, I think it's a balance, and I think we should have a balance. And let me tell you why. I mean, some of the coals we have in Virginia are near the surface, and we need some flat land in these mountains. I mean, you look at the airport in Wise, you look at other places that we've made utilization of that flat land. I do think that the coal seams that are deep, we've got to go after them from a standpoint of underground mines. Those that are near the surface, we ought to try to get them and do it in an environmental acceptable way and restore the land back to maybe not even to its original contour, in my opinion, because we need some flat land in some areas. So let's be smart about how we utilize our resources and make them to our advantage. I love these mountains. I also love the fact that we have natural resources that we need to use. And certainly we've got to make use of those natural resources to continue to enhance our way of life and our economic development. The one thing that we have, in my opinion, Skip, that other parts of the state doesn't have is we have a natural resource of trees and wood and coal. And we have ample water systems. So let's utilize those to help us bring our level of living and growth in the economic developments. And I do think that the Southwest Virginia can become the real economic growth area of Virginia. And we will have more people come in here. And so we'll need more land, and we'll need some more flat land to have housing and so forth. So I think in the future we can have a balance between both surface mining and deep mining, and I think that's makes economic sense. And we do it in a very much environmental and land development way.
Sure. You're talking about how the contours and development of post land use practices from the mining aspect. I do know that it's been a few years ago now, but Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy has signed a cooperative agreement with Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, as well as I forget who may be the third partner with regard to that proposal, but to identify properties that are suitable for some economic development opportunity post land use, so they can get some type of relief. The mining operation can get some relief instead of putting something back at approximate original contour. They can create some flat land for, again, post mining land uses that would benefit the region, economically and the tax base certainly. So
well, Skip, you're right on target, because we've got all these resources, so let's make sure we make use of them to benefit our mankind, but also do it in a very environmentally acceptable way.
Sure.
I mean, we've got shopping centers now which are very convenient to people that are on surface mines. And before, we wouldn't have any room for it. We've lived in these hollows and we get flooded out so many times. So I think that we can bring Southwest Virginia back into the 21st century in a very prosperous way by making utilization of our natural resources.
Right.
And we should do that and do it smart and do it in an environmental way.
Okay.
That'd be acceptable.
I want to kind of move beyond coal in our economy, beyond just the coal. But before I do that, I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that you can tell us today about, again, the benefits that we hope to see from the Virginia City Hybrid Energy Center? But I guess specifically, I would ask you to give us some consideration if you had an opportunity to speak with members of the State Air Pollution Control Board, whose hands the Virginia City Hybrid Energy Center permit now rests. If you had an opportunity to speak one-on-one with those board members, what would you tell those board members?
Well, I'd like to have that opportunity, because I think that the most important thing I would want to say is to focus on the technology. We obviously know it's going to create jobs, it's going to create a demand for coal, and it's going to have a big impact financially on our region. But I would like to address them from a technical standpoint, because I think that becomes the heart of these issues. I would like to say that the fluidized bed combustion system that's been selected is by far the best system that's possible for this plant at this point in time. I know the IGCC is coming. I've been involved with the Department of Energy on that, but I also know it's very expensive and it's capital intensive, and it does not provide fuel flexibility that we need in this first plant. So I would like to address those fluidized. I'd even like to take the Air Board up to West Virginia University so they can see firsthand what is being done on a daily basis and how the environment is protected from a sulfur dioxide and from a nitrous oxide and from a mercury standpoint. And West Virginia using that plant every day. Now, just convincing technically and answering the questions technically to the Air Board is where I would want to focus. And I think if I had a chance to be one-on-one, I could certainly convince them and answer their questions about this technology and the benefits. I think the third thing, I would like to address this coal waste issue. We throw about 30% of our product that we mine out of the ground back on top of the ground. And of that 30%, there's a lot of coal. And this is going to provide additional flexibility to utilize that coal and help clean up some of those coal waste sites that now do leach into the environment. And once it goes through this fluidized bed combustion system, that waste product is very stable. It does not have leaching properties. And so it's going to clean up that part of the environment. The other thing I think is that Dominion has selected an air-cooled system rather than water. That is about 90% efficient, and they will be able to preserve the water in the Clinch River and be able to use this technology, air-cooled, and that's an important addition rather than utilizing some of the water we have available. So I'd like to be able to explain the benefits of that as well.
Do you know of any either at the West Virginia University of West Virginia site you mentioned or otherwise? But I think there's a lot of concern about the predominance of asthma and different health conditions as it results in breathing, breathing some of the emissions and so forth. Is that an issue that you are aware of, or can you address?
Well, I'm not really a physician, but I don't think that these conditions, I mean, there's all kinds of data that can show that you've got this or that, but I don't think it's been substantiated that that's probably any worse than coal dust coming off a rail car or dust off the roads. We're getting a lot of things now that are confusing from that standpoint. I don't know that I've seen much data that really has convinced me that there is a problem there. The Carbo plant that AEP has had, it's right there in Russell County. People have been living there beside that plant for a long, long time, and it was a far greater polluter than what this plant's going to be. Now they've cleaned that plant up and greatly, and so AEP has done a fine job on that. But I don't know that we've ever got any real data that shows that it's higher around Carbo than what it is some other places in Southwest Virginia.
In order to finish up this aspect of coal, is there anything else that you'd like to?
Well, I'd like to also address maybe the CO2. I mean, that's becoming a big issue on how do we store CO2 and reduce the greenhouse gases. And all fossil fuels, I don't care whether it's gasoline or natural gas, they all give off CO2 when they combust. Some are a little less than others. And when we use biomass, that's a little bit less than CO2 than coal. So this plant will have a use of biomass and have the flexibility. So that will reduce some of that. The other thing, Virginia Tech is working very closely on testing right now, injecting carbon dioxide in underground coal mines. That's being done also already in Australia. So it's not new technology. We've just got to prove it on a little bigger scale here in Southwest Virginia. And this site at Virginia City is located near abandoned coal mines that have been mined out. So we have the opportunity there to inject this carbon dioxide and reduce that from getting in the atmosphere. So I very much believe that's going to happen, and I think it's well within our technology capabilities. And as soon as that technology gets up, I'm sure Dominion would take advantage of that.
Technology-wise, talking about carbon sequestration and what this plant will do with regard to carbon sequestration, but in general, how would you encapsulate the carbon as a result of operating the plant to keep it from escaping at some point in the future?
Well,
I think that's a concern.
Well, it is. But I'd much rather use carbon storage than carbon sequestration because that's always a confusing word. But CO2 is heavier than air. CO2 comes out of coal anyway. Okay. It's in the coal mines. It's absorbed by some of the coal as well. So when we do inject it in these coal mines at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, I mean that's the temperature of underground mines, it's going to stay there. It's not going to be moving on in and out.
Interesting.
You can seal that up, and these mines are sealed, and some of the mines then will absorb some of that CO2 right within the coal seam. So from tests that's been done, the CO2 does stay pretty much where you put it. And it's going to then move around in those banded caverns.
Okay, very interesting. So by virtue of just having, you've got a lot of water wells that may be non-producing now because at one time they were, they were into the coal seam itself, and then when the coal was mined, the water well became less productive until water, if it was a water-bearing strata, filled up. So if you've got some of these abandoned water wells, you won't see any carbon escaping out of these wells.
That's right, and people got to realize that CO2 is in our Coca-Colas.
Right.
I mean, that's what the fizz is in Coca-Cola and beer and so forth. So we drink CO2. Right. So it's not harmful from that standpoint.
Right.
and our plants need CO2. We could not live on this planet if we didn't have CO2. The plant life depends on CO2, and it gives off oxygen. So really, from a standpoint of capturing and utilizing that CO2 and injecting it, I think is a very smart way to do it, and it will reduce it out of the atmosphere. And the problem with CO2 in the atmosphere, it starts to build up, and it creates a greenhouse effect and prevents sun from coming into the earth. So that's what is a problem with that. But us breathing and eating and drinking CO2 is not such a big problem.
Well, that's probably a good transition to talk about how it's important for plant life and plant production and so forth. And tell us about your winery.
Well, many people know in Southwest Virginia, I was one of the first commercial wineries started in 1998. And I believe in bringing on new technologies, and people thought maybe I was a little crazy trying to grow grapes in Southwest Virginia. But we got with Virginia Tech, and we